Hello, Post-Roe Gen, and welcome to this special episode of the Explicitly Pro-Life podcast. I'm your host, Kristan Hawkins. I recently delivered a speech 2 days after the reversal of Roe versus Wade to the post-Roe generation, giving the top pro-life student leaders from across America their marching orders while we were gathered in Washington, D.C. for Students for Life's National Leaders Collective. I have included this speech in this podcast today because I really want you to hear my heart, where I feel we need to go from here, from this moment, and really some of my thoughts about our role, our pro-life generation, now our post-Roe generation's role in the downfall of Roe versus Wade, and what our legacy really will be. So give this a listen and make sure you like, share this podcast episode, and you subscribe and tell all of your pro-life friends. We have a lot to do in the coming weeks and months within the pro-life movement. This is a all hands on deck moment. So we will be bringing you podcasts every week, twice a week, with marching orders, with engaging personalities and leaders throughout this movement to hopefully help you find your place and to get active and helping us to completely abolish abortion in our lifetime.
So, if you're feeling like me, this National Leaders Collective has been pretty incredible. I have heard stories from a lot of you about the things that you guys are doing on campus. I've also heard from a lot of you that this is really has been an entry point for you into pro-life leadership. And so what an amazing time to be started in the movement. Chris had said something really profound earlier today, and I hope I'm not stealing something from your speech, but how we are really standing on the shoulders of giants that came before us and fought this battle before a lot of us were even born. And what we saw on Friday was the birthing of a new pro-life movement. And this is a pro-life movement that is going to be stewarded by you guys. So this is going to be a huge change, and I'm really, really excited to see all the things that God is going to work in and through you. We are going to see incredible culture change. We also might see some incredible conflict, but I think if anything can prepare you for that, it's this weekend and these relationships that you're building here today. So without further ado, to end the evening, I want to welcome Kristan Hawkins, the president of Students for Life of America.
Thank you, Tina Weddington, the Executive Vice President of Students for Life, never introduced herself. But if you ever want to contact me and you can't, you call Tina. You know, I believe there are moments and decisions that are made in every movement that determine the fate of that movement, of the cause, of the mission. It all comes down to a choice that sometimes is made by one or a few individuals. To lean back or fall forward, to take an incredible personal risk, as you heard here tonight with some of our pro-life champions, or play it safe. To play nice and make friends with those in power, or like some of our pro-life champions, to create the tension needed to demand real change. Think for a moment about the decision of Mother Till to keep her baby boy's casket open, to keep Emmett's casket open after he was tortured and drowned for supposedly whistling to a white woman in Mississippi, which Rosa Parks had on her mind the day she refused to give up her seat on the bus, which began the Montgomery bus boycotts, which led for students to dress up in their Sunday best in Greensboro and go sit at a segregated lunch counter. Pro-life generation, I'm here tonight to ask you to do something, to make a decision right here, right now, to commit to doing something never done before in the history of our nation, to do something that there is no playbook or history lesson we can learn from. I'm here to ask you to commit right now to finish what we started and finally abolish abortion throughout America. I implore you to use your time tonight to commit to doing all that you can when you leave here tomorrow to achieve our mission, one that started before I was conceived and before you were even thought of, a mission that has spanned 5 decades, that's gone campus to campus, church to church, state by state, to make abortion unthinkable and unavailable in our land. For the past several months, many of you have been following my Instagram travels, with my family and I traveling throughout the American South, throughout the country in our RV. And the history we find in every town, especially in the South, causes me especially to ponder, reflect upon the tragedy of slavery, the devastation of the Civil War. And as I've been running from interview to interview after the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision on Friday, which, yes, reverses the previously egregiously decided Roe and Casey decisions, I have been constantly asked by those in the mainstream media who do not understand what our vision is for America, particularly what strategies we will employ in state houses across the nation. During these conversations, where I have to do a lot of time educating about biology, I can't help but think back to what happened after our Civil War, the Reconstruction effort. It's a topic that's rarely discussed in our culture and in our history classes. Its failure, and then finally the Civil Rights Movement in America that saw success 99 years after Lee's surrender at Appomattox. For decades after the Civil War, freed Black Americans lived with regular discrimination, with Supreme Court sanctioned segregation. They lived in fear of night rides by the Klan and those in authority who looked the other way. Poverty was rampant, and the effects still linger today in our nation. I woke up the other morning and I started searching and still haven't found yet. What happened? My question in my mind was, what happened to the slavery abolitionist who before the Civil War established the anti-slavery newspapers, who courageously set up and ran the Underground Railroad, who lobbied elected officials throughout our nation, who ran for office? For history books doesn't tell their story. Did they volunteer at the newly made Freedmen's Bureau? Did they set up charitable institutions to help the newly freed slaves find shelter, find an education, get jobs? I'm not sure. And maybe I'm being too harsh on them. I've been told before I'm a little hard on people. I don't know. But I can't help but feel, just a little bit, that those who came before us, who I want to collectively call the American church, those who proclaimed that every human person, no matter their skin color, had been made in the image of our Creator, that they failed in their task after the Civil War ended. For it was in solitary confinement, in the margins of a newspaper smuggled to him in Birmingham, Alabama, that Martin Luther King wrote to white clergymen and to the white moderate. Today we call those folks the I don't like abortion but folks, explaining the price of their inaction and pleading for them to join him. Martin Luther King wrote, I have almost reached the most regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action. Who paternalistically feels like he can set a timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by this myth of time, who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Have you ever heard that before? Pro-life champions and state legislators? Because those who said wait for a more convenient time, wait until the next election's over, wait until X policy is taking effect. Because it was those who said wait. It took nearly 100 years after the Civil War until the passage of the Civil Rights Act to achieve what Martin Luther King called a positive peace. It took the murder of a little boy named Emmett, the same age as my son, in rural Mississippi, his murderer's acquittal that led to one woman to refuse to give up her seat, which led to marches in our streets and bus freedom rides, student-led lunch counter sit-ins, which resulted in days and weeks in jail, the stinging pain of water hoses, death threats, bombings, and assassinations. It took 99 years. Men and women, the moment we have worked for, the moment that we have been working for as a movement, before I was even thought of, is here, is now. Step one of our mission is complete. But there are so many more steps to go. And you, not me, you must lead this movement. You must lead America to achieve what we've set out to do 16 years ago, to abolish abortion. Abolish it throughout our nation. I believe in all my heart that each and every one of you were called to do this. On Friday, we had a front row seat to the largest victory since the inception of the pro-life movement. We were there at the Supreme Court as history was made, as the wrongs of 1973 were finally righted. And Saturday, yesterday, we woke up to a post-Roe America, jubilant because we knew that more than 400 babies were likely spared the violence of abortion because 13 states immediately acted to protect women and children from the predatory abortion industry. We knocked on doors. But we didn't stop. We knocked on doors. Day one of a post-Roe America, where were we at? We were knocking on doors in not very conservative neighborhoods, I shall add. I heard some of your stories. We knocked on doors in our communities, alerting our neighbors to the dangerous late-term abortionist who operates just down the street. We educated our neighbors about the nonviolent resources that are available. Outside of Washington, we rallied in 31 state capitals, showing our elected officials that we mean business, and we expect them to live up to their promises to protect women and children. But today, Sunday, I need you to do more. Because if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't ascribe the victory we experienced on Friday completely to us. We came into a 50-year-long battle 16 years ago. And while I believe we played a part in seeing Roe versus Wade reversed, I don't actually believe it was what we were called to do. No. That's the previous generation. I believe you and I have been called to do something even harder. Something that I know, especially after meeting so many of you this weekend and hearing your stories, something that I know is possible. For we are not called to cease. We are not called to waste a moment. We are not called to go back to our states and our cities, our communities, to do nothing. But we are called to refuse to tolerate decades more of abortion destruction. We are called to reconstruct our nation, to put back what the Supreme Court broke in 1973, to make abortion unthinkable and illegal in every state, in every city across America. And I believe yes, this will be harder than reversing Roe. But never before has our movement been so ready, because we have you, a trained army of more than 1,300 Students for Life groups in all 50 states, more than 150,000 trained, an army that shows the world that we believe in a creator who made each and every one of us equally valuable. An army that shows America we are pro-life because we love. But make no mistake about this. The battles we will face in the coming months as you return home tomorrow will be difficult. Some will be physical, some will be political, and others spiritual. And our streets, the violence that so many support behind the closed doors of a Planned Parenthood will be committed openly, and they will be justified by those in power in our nation. On your campuses, you will experience violence and discrimination. In our state houses, those who we've worked hard to elect will be forced to finally act, to cast votes that will determine the fate of abortion laws in their states, that will determine whether or not thousands of children will live or die. And I predict, after seeing the violence in our streets, the protests in front of our Supreme Court justices' homes, I predict some of those who've said they were with us may not be there when the final tally comes in. In our homes, in our dorm rooms, our sisters, our best friends, our roommates will be ordering chemical abortion pills shipped from overseas or from other states that can very well result in her own injury, infertility, or death. She'll be aborting her child in your bathroom, and every morning being forced to return to the scene of the crime. In our workplaces and in churches, women and men are going to be hurting from past abortion decisions that they made a long, long time ago that they never wanted to think about again. But because of the reversal of Roe, will be forced to finally reckon with the choice that they've made. And on the computer and on campus, there's going to be a young woman who's in crisis, who just found out she's pregnant and feels all alone and doesn't know where to turn. One thing we've learned this year at Students for Life, loud and clear, is that nearly 73% of our neighbors, those homes you knock on the doors of the campaign for abortion-free cities, 73% of the conversations you have in our targeted cities with neighbors result in the neighbor telling us they didn't even know nonviolent alternatives existed. We have a lot of work to do. So, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Now, you know me, I'm bossy. I'll tell you. Here we go. First, speak loudly for life. We are here today because of the OG pro-life generation who refused to be silent. People like my mentor, Phyllis Schlafly, who walked in a room, her hair was always perfect. She always had a pink suit on, a big eagle pin, with a smile on her face, and people groaned. It didn't matter what audience she was in, because she always refused to give in. Who today, I would credit her as one of those original pro-life warriors, who's responsible for the fact that today's Republican Party rejects the violence of abortion. We're here because of her. We're here today because of Nellie Gray, a Democrat who was working on Capitol Hill, who heard about the Roe v. Wade decision and said, "What's up with that? We have to end it," and was aghast when no one stood up with her, who decided to launch the world's largest annual human rights march. Did you know Friday was Nellie's birthday? We're here today because of men like Joe Scheidler, a dad in Chicago, upon hearing upon the violence of abortion, decided he was going to get on the streets and he was going to talk to women before they entered the abortion facility. And sometimes he was going to enter the abortion facility and sit down right next to her and talk to her about the violence that was happening behind those closed doors. We are here because that OG, that original pro-life gen, refused to sit down and shut up. When they were told by their church, by their pastors, by their friends and their family members, their co-workers, you just need to take a different approach. You need to stop talking about abortion. Know what you're making everybody in the room feel uncomfortable. They said, so abortion should make us all feel uncomfortable. You, my friends, must refuse to give in to the fear of persecution. Refuse to be silenced by their threats and their bullying, because it will come. You must drive the narrative of this post-Roe America. You have to quell the flames of fear that Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry is fanning amongst our generation. Earlier tonight, you heard from Senator Brian Hughes about the incredible work, the hundreds, the thousands of lives that have been saved in the state of Texas since the passing of the heartbeat bill. And I don't know if you remember what happened while that was getting passed. I know all the Texas Students for Life certainly remembers, because they were at the Capitol getting yelled at. But on the TV, on social media, there was all of this fear-mongering. September 1st came, the bill became law. 65% of children who were destined to be aborted in Texas were saved, and life went on. Ensure your Students for Life group is ready this year to be louder than you've ever been before. I saw some megaphones earlier. Some of you brought your own megaphones to the Supreme Court. Extra gold stars for that. Find your megaphone, whether physically or metaphorically. Host these displays when your Students for Life regional coordinator emails you and says, "Hey, I'm swinging through. Let's host a display." Host a tabletop. Be more active than ever. Make sure you're on studentsforlifehq.com and get all the free trainings. Make sure you subscribe to someone's podcast who's standing before you today. Follow all the Students for Life's social media channels, our new Instagram shows, one inspired by lovely Amagashi. Wear pro-life merchandise. These are great places to start. Live your pro-life values loudly and refuse to shut up. Can't be any more clear than that. The second thing you have to do is you have to ensure no woman stands alone. No woman stands alone in a post-Roe America. As I mentioned, we have a lot of challenges coming up. Facing down the dangerous threat of the proliferation of chemical abortion drugs, which President Biden and his administration want to make over the counter by the end of the year. We have a very big midterm election, which if you haven't signed up for Students for Life Action deployment, go to studentsforlifeaction.org/volunteer. And you better do it. We have a lot of challenges. And sometimes I feel like these challenges can seem too great for any one of us. But there's one particular challenge that I know you can stare down, whether it's in high school or whether it's in college. And that's telling the story of who the pro-life movement is. That every single day we operate more than 3,000 pregnancy resource centers, more than 400 maternity homes across the nation that vastly outnumber abortion facilities. And that in a post-Roe America, there is never any reason for a woman to feel like she has to choose between the life of her child and her education and her career goals. Because damn it, this is 2022. Know the resources in your community. Know where you can refer her. Know standingwithyou.org. I mean, you should be like Dustin's mumbling pro-life champions in his sleep. Mumble that word in your sleep. Standingwithyou.org. Standingwithyou.org. Know supportafterabortion.org. Know abortionpillreversal.org. Get your group involved with the Standing With You initiative and transform discrimination on your campus into life-affirming policies. A great first step, and if you haven't heard about it, I'll be a little sad, is to sign up your church, your parish, your small group to participate in Standing With Her National Sunday and Simulcast on Sunday, August 28th. Go to standingwithhersunday.org. Alveda King will be speaking. It'll be awesome. The third thing you can do, and this is probably the hardest, should be the easiest, but it's not. Dream big dreams. You know, when I launched Students for Life 16 years ago, newly married and 21, when I saw the gray hair Friday, it was a very shocking reminder of where my youth has gone. Fighting Planned Parenthood will do it to you. I remember when I launched Students for Life. And I was given this opportunity, this platform, to meet heroes in my life. That's why I get all freaked out when you all want to come get a picture with me, because I'm just like a normal person just like you. But I remember meeting my pro-life heroes and standing up in a room amongst national pro-life organizations, telling them we were going to do something different, that we were going to start a youth-led organization to find an army to lead this pro-life generation to victory, to become a post-Roe generation. And I would use words like post-Roe, abolish abortion. And I remember I was in Manhattan, and we had this really great fundraiser. It was all swanky. It was so cool. It was at the Harvard Club. And a mentor of mine turned to me after the event, said, it was a great event. It was awesome. Your speech was good, so inspiring. But you know, you really should stop saying things like post-Roe, abolish abortion. Because, you know, these people here in Manhattan, they're with you, they know abortion's wrong, and they'll give you some money. But you sound too naive. No one's going to invest in an organization whose leader actually thinks we can reverse Roe. I challenge you to have a dogged determination, to dream big dreams, and always remember who it is we serve. the creator of a universe, who spoke our world into existence. Don't let the fear of failure stop you from trying to achieve your goals, our goals. It's simple sports psychology. Winners always envision the win. There's no football team that runs into a field that thinks they're going to lose that ends up being triumphant. It just doesn't work that way. Because if you envision yourself losing, if you don't think achieving your goal is possible, I can guarantee you, you will not work like you need to work. You will not give what you need to give. You will not withstand the persecution that is coming unless you understand in your heart and in your mind that abolishing abortion in our lifetime, in this generation, is 100% possible. We need you. We need you, this first post-Roe generation. We need your ideas, your insights, and yes, we need your passion. Don't be afraid to fail. I fail all the time. Because of this movement, because of the victory achieved on Friday, my daughter and my sons will no longer live in a nation where abortion is legal everywhere. They will know that wrongs can be righted if a few stand up for positive peace. My children will grow up in a nation knowing that you can transform a society, that you can make a nation return back to life if some are courageous enough to stand. But better yet, if you make a decision tonight, if you make a commitment tonight before you leave Washington, D.C., to abolish abortion in your lifetime, and you commit to returning home tomorrow to hit the ground running, to get started, my grandchildren will never know an America where precious preborn children are dismembered, burned alive, or sucked out of their mother's womb simply because they are an inconvenience. My grandchildren will know a society, a nation where protecting life is paramount, where abortion is a thing of the past and is looked upon as reprehensibly as the evil of slavery in America. So, no pressure, but what decision will you make? What actions will you take tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that will determine the fate? That will determine the success of our movement, the greatest human rights struggle in the history of the world. You know, in the course of these family RV travels, you should really follow the Instagram account. It's kind of cute. My kids are precious. I've been honored to take my children to Appomattox, where the Civil War ended. I've taken them to visit the battlefields of Gettysburg and Vicksburg, which were the keys to Union victory. I've shown them the old mansion, a mile from where I grew up, which was the last stop on the Underground Railroad in what was considered Virginia at the time. I've been to Montgomery, where Ms. Parks refused to give up her seat. I've taken them to the lunch counter in Greensboro, where those 4 black students refused to vacate. And at every history field stop, I always try to ask my kids what they would have done. Do they think they would have had the courage to do that very hard thing, to make that hard decision, knowing the persecution that was coming, to make that hard decision to go onto the battlefield, even if death were imminent, to stand for vulnerable others facing injustice. But now I don't have to ask that question any longer of my children. We don't have to look back into history and ask those questions of ourselves because it is happening before us. Tonight, will you make a decision not to just celebrate the end of Roe versus Wade and embrace a negative peace with some states protecting life and other states destroying life? Will you make a decision to do the hard thing, to dream the big dream, to do the thing that's never been done before, to lead an army of love and to seek a positive peace, to stand for children alongside with their mothers, to get to work to ensure that no woman stands alone in a post-Roe America, and to guarantee that abortion is abolished on our watch. Thank you.